The rain fell like bullets against the Seoul pavement, and Aisha's bare feet were bleeding. "You worthless thief!" Her foster mother's screech still echoed in her ears as she stumbled through the dark alley, clutching nothing but a small bag and the necklace her real parents had left her. "We should have thrown you out years ago." The accusation of stealing money was a lie. Aisha had known it the moment the words left their mouths. They had always looked at her with contempt, always reminded her she was different, always made her feel like a burden they carried for reasons she never understood. Tonight, that burden had finally become too heavy. Her foster father had grabbed her hair, dragged her to the door, and literally thrown her into the storm. The last thing she saw before the door slammed was her foster sister's smirking face, counting money that Aisha had never touched. "You were never our child," her foster mother had screamed through the closing door. "You were just money we were paid to keep." Paid to keep. The words carved into Aisha's chest deeper than any physical wound. 19 years of her life, and she had been nothing but a transaction. The rain mixed with her tears, and she couldn't tell which was colder. She walked without direction, her thin dress soaked through, her body shaking from cold and shock. The necklace in her hand was the only real thing she had ever owned. A simple silver pendant with an engraved symbol she had never understood. Sometimes when she held it, she saw flashes, gunshots, screams, fire, a woman's voice calling her name. But those were just nightmares, weren't they? Aisha's vision blurred. Her knees buckled. The last thing she registered was the sleek black hood of a luxury car before darkness consumed her. When Kang Min-Joon stepped out of his vehicle, his bodyguard immediately moved to shield him from the rain. But Min-Joon's eyes were fixed on the crumpled figure near his front tire. A girl, bleeding, unconscious. "Boss, we should leave," his head of security, Chol-soo, urged. "This could be a setup." Min-Joon crouched beside her, tilting his head. Her face was pale, bruised, but what struck him were her eyes half open in semi-consciousness. They weren't afraid. They were empty, completely, utterly empty. He had seen that look before, in the mirror. "Bring her inside," he said quietly. "Boss." "I said bring her inside." His tone left no room for argument. Chol-soo hesitated only a moment before lifting the girl carefully. Min-Joon watched as her hand remained clenched around something. A necklace. Even unconscious, she held onto it like it was her only anchor to existence. "Everyone is dangerous," Min-Joon murmured as he returned to the car. "She's just honest about it." The mansion was obscenely luxurious. That was Aisha's first coherent thought when she woke. Silk sheets, crystal chandelier, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. She sat up too quickly and pain lanced through her ribs. The door opened. A man entered and Aisha's breath caught. He was tall, impeccably dressed in a black suit that probably cost more than her entire existence. His face was sharp, beautiful in a dangerous way, but it was his eyes that paralyzed her. Dark, calculating, and completely unreadable. "You were dying in the rain," he said simply, as if commenting on the weather. Aisha's hand flew to her neck. The necklace was still there. Relief flooded her before suspicion took over. "Why did you save me?" He studied her for a long moment. "Because I hate wasted lives." "You don't know me." "I know enough." He moved to the window, hands in his pockets. "Your foster family threw you out. You have nowhere to go, no money, no resources." He glanced back at her. "Am I wrong?" Aisha's jaw tightened. She wanted to deny it, but what was the point? "What do you want from me?" A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Direct, I appreciate that." He turned fully to face her. "You can stay here temporarily, recover, then decide what you want to do with your life." "Why would you do that?" "Does it matter?" "Yes." He walked closer and Aisha forced herself not to flinch. When he spoke, his voice was almost gentle. "Because when I looked at you in that rain, I saw someone who had already decided to die. I'm giving you a reason to reconsider." Before she could respond, he left. 3 days passed. Aisha stayed in her room mostly, venturing out only when hunger forced her. The mansion was enormous, filled with staff who avoided eye contact and men in black suits who watched everything. She wasn't stupid. This wasn't a normal household. Kang Min-Joon, she learned his name from the housekeeper, was apparently a business tycoon. Import-export, the woman said vaguely. But business tycoons didn't have armed guards at every entrance. They didn't have secret rooms that required fingerprint access. They didn't have meetings at 3 in the morning where raised voices spoke in code about territories and shipments and eliminations. Aisha observed everything. It was her survival instinct, honed from years of navigating her foster family's volatile moods. Watch, listen, stay invisible. If you're enjoying this story, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support means everything, and trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Drop a comment telling me what you think Aisha should do. Now, let's continue. On the 4th night, she found Min-Joon on the terrace, smoking a cigarette. She had meant to retreat, but he had already seen her. "Can't sleep?" he asked without turning. "I'm not used to silk sheets." He exhaled smoke, and something that might have been amusement flickered across his face. "What are you used to?" "The floor, sometimes a mat if I was lucky." He finally looked at her, really looked at her. "They treated you like that for 19 years. They fed me, that's more than some people get. That's a low bar for humanity." Aisha moved to the railing, keeping distance between them. "Do you believe people can change?" The question seemed to surprise him. He took a long drag of his cigarette before answering. "People don't change. They just reveal who they really are." "That's cynical." "That's experience." He crushed the cigarette under his heel. "You're not afraid of me. Why should I be?" "Most people are." "I've been afraid my whole life," Aisha said quietly. "I'm tired of it." Something shifted in his expression. For just a moment the mask cracked and she saw something raw underneath. Loneliness. Recognition. But then it was gone and he was unreadable again. "Get some sleep, Aisha." She turned to leave, then paused. "How do you know my name?" "I know everything about everyone in my house." "Then you know more about me than I do." He didn't respond, and Aisha returned to her room with more questions than answers. 2 weeks later, everything changed. Min-Joon had asked her to accompany him to a charity event. "You need clothes that fit, and I need a date who won't bore me with small talk," he had said. It wasn't romantic. It was transactional. Aisha had agreed because she was curious about his world. The gala was overwhelming. Champagne, designer gowns, people who smiled with their mouths but calculated with their eyes. Min-Joon introduced her vaguely as a family friend, and she played the part. Silent, observant, invisible. What she didn't know was that cameras were everywhere. That the news cycle would pick up the image of Kang Min-Joon with a mysterious young woman. That her foster family, watching television in their cramped apartment, would recognize her face. And that across the city, in a dimly lit office, Jang Tae-ho would see that same image and smile. "Find out who she is," he told his assistant. "Everything about her. I want to know why Min-Joon is keeping her close." The message came 3 days later, anonymous, untraceable. "Your real parents didn't die by accident. Kang Min-Joon's organization killed them." Aisha stared at her phone screen until the words blurred. Her hands shook. The necklace around her neck suddenly felt heavy, burning against her skin. She had always known her parents died violently. The nightmares told her that much, but murdered, by a mafia organization, by the man who saved her. No, it couldn't be true. It was a lie meant to manipulate her. She would ignore it, delete it, forget it. But that night, alone in her room, she examined the necklace more carefully. The pendant had always felt slightly heavy, slightly wrong. With trembling fingers, she pried it open. A tiny USB drive fell into her palm. The footage was grainy, date stamped 15 years ago. A warehouse, men in suits, gunfire, her mother's scream, her father shielding someone, blood, so much blood. And in the corner of the frame, barely visible, a symbol. The same symbol she had seen on documents in Min-Joon's office. The same symbol tattooed on Chul-Soo's wrist. Aisha vomited into her bathroom sink. The knock on her door made her jump. She quickly hid the USB drive, wiped her mouth, and opened the door. Her foster mother stood there smiling, actually smiling. "Aisha, darling, can we talk?" Darling, a word that had never crossed that woman's lips in 19 years. "How did you find me?" "We saw you on television. We've been so worried." Her foster father appeared behind her, equally false in his concern. "We were wrong to throw you out. We were just protecting you." "Protecting me?" "From people who would use you, dangerous people." Her foster mother's eyes darted around the mansion hallway greedily. "But we see now that you're safe, that you found someone who cares for you." Aisha's stomach churned. "You want money." "We want to reconcile," her foster father said smoothly. "Family is family after all." "You said I was just money you were paid to keep. Who paid you?" The question clearly caught them off guard. Her foster mother's smile faltered. "That's not important now." "Who paid you?" Aisha's voice rose. She had never raised her voice to them, ever. Before they could answer, Min-Joon appeared at the end of the hallway. His expression was pleasant, but his eyes were ice. "Is there a problem?" Her foster parents immediately cowered. It was instinctive, the recognition of a predator. "No problem," her foster father stammered. "We were just leaving." "Good." Min-Joon's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Don't come back." After they left, Min-Joon turned to Aisha. "Are you all right?" She wanted to scream, to demand answers, to show him the USB drive, but fear paralyzed her, fear of the truth, fear of what it would mean. "I'm fine," she lied. He didn't believe her. She could see it in his eyes, but he let it go. "If you need anything, I know where to find you." That night Aisha didn't sleep. She researched. Newspaper articles, police reports, unsolved massacres, and slowly, piece by piece, a picture emerged. Her parents had been witnesses to Mafia corruption. They had evidence. They were going to testify. They were eliminated. And the organization responsible was now one of the most powerful criminal empires in South Korea, led by a man whose public face was a successful businessman, a man named Kang Min-Joon. Aisha was still staring at her laptop screen when she heard the commotion downstairs. Shouting, gunfire. Her door burst open, and a man in a black mask grabbed her before she could scream. The last thing she heard was Min-Joon's roar of rage before a cloth covered her mouth, and everything went dark. She woke in a basement, concrete walls, single light bulb. Her hands were zip-tied behind her back. Across from her sat a man in an expensive suit, smoking calmly. "Hello, Aisha," Jang Tae-ho said pleasantly. "We have so much to discuss." "Where am I?" "Somewhere safe. Somewhere your protector can't reach you." He leaned forward. "Tell me, has Min-Joon told you about your parents yet?" Aisha's blood ran cold. "Ah, I see he hasn't. How unfortunate." Tae-ho smiled. 15 years ago, his organization executed a family, a couple who knew too much. They left behind a daughter, a 4-year-old girl who witnessed everything. "Stop." That girl was placed in foster care, hidden, protected, until she became inconvenient. He stubbed out his cigarette. "You're that girl, Aisha, and the man who saved you from the rain, he's the monster who created the storm." Before Aisha could respond, an explosion rocked the building. Gunfire erupted above them. Tae-ho's smile vanished as his men rushed in, shouting in panic. Then the door exploded inward. Min-Joon stood in the doorway, covered in blood that wasn't his, holding a gun. His eyes found Aisha, and for a moment raw emotion crossed his face. Relief, rage, something deeper. "Touch her again," he said quietly to Tae-ho, and I'll make your death last days. What followed was carnage. Min-Joon moved through Tae-ho's men like death incarnate, efficient, brutal, merciless. Aisha had never seen violence like this, had never understood what true ruthlessness looked like. When it was over, Min-Joon cut her restraints and pulled her to her feet. Can you walk? She nodded, numb. Good, stay behind me. They moved through the building, stepping over bodies. Aisha's mind was screaming, but her body operated on autopilot. When they finally reached Min-Joon's car, he practically threw her inside before climbing in himself. Drive, he commanded his driver. They rode in silence. Aisha's hands were shaking. She could still smell gunpowder, blood, death. Anyone who touches what's mine dies, Min-Joon said finally, his voice low and dangerous. I'm not yours. He looked at her and she saw something break in his expression. No, you're not. The truth hung between them like a blade. When they returned to the mansion, Aisha went straight to her room. She pulled out the USB drive, took a deep breath, and marched to Min-Joon's office. He was pouring himself whiskey when she entered. He looked up, and his eyes fell to the USB drive in her hand. Understanding dawned. You knew, Aisha said. Her voice was steady, but tears streamed down her face. You knew who I was when you saved me. Min-Joon set down his glass carefully. Yes. Your organization killed my parents. Yes. And you saved me. Why? Her voice broke on the last word. Why would you save the daughter of people you murdered? Min-Joon moved toward her slowly as if approaching a wounded animal. I didn't kill them personally. I was barely older than you are now when it happened, but it was my organization, my responsibility. He stopped a few feet away. When I saw you in that rain, I saw the face of every life my world has destroyed. I saw the consequence of 15 years of blood and violence, and I realized the storm I created had a face. Aisha's knees buckled. Min-Joon caught her and she collapsed against him, sobbing. He held her stiffly as if he'd forgotten how. I hate you, she whispered into his chest. I know. I should kill you. I know. But I can't. His arms tightened around her fractionally. I know. They stood like that for a long time. The monster and his truth. The storm and its victim. Two broken people bound by blood and rain and impossible circumstances. The next morning, her foster family appeared at the gates, begging for forgiveness. Security called Min-Joon, but Aisha insisted on handling it herself. She walked out to face them, Min-Joon a silent presence behind her. Aisha, please, her foster mother wept. We're sorry, we were wrong, we were scared. You were paid to hide me, Aisha said calmly, paid to keep me invisible, and when that money ran out, you threw me into the storm. She looked at each of them. You don't get to call me family now. You don't get to call me anything. But we raised you. You caged me, there's a difference. Aisha turned her back on them. Don't come back, you're not welcome in my life anymore. As security escorted them away, Aisha felt Min-Joon's presence beside her. What happens now? She asked quietly. That's up to you. She looked up at him. This man who represented everything she should hate. This man who had saved her when he had no reason to. This man who carried the weight of her parents' death but still treated her with something close to tenderness. I can't forgive you, she said. I'm not asking you to. But I'm not leaving either. Something flickered in his eyes. Hope maybe. Or perhaps just less darkness. That night they stood together on the mansion's terrace as rain began to fall again. The city lights blurred through the drops, and Aisha remembered that first night. Bleeding, broken, ready to die. You saved me from the storm, she said softly. Min-Joon's jaw tightened. I created the storm. I know. She looked at him, and for the first time she saw him clearly. Not as a savior or a monster, but as something more complicated, something human, and I'm the truth that could destroy you. I know. The rain fell harder, but neither of them moved. Two people bound by impossible circumstances, standing in the eye of a storm that might consume them both. She was the evidence that could end his empire. He was the embodiment of her deepest trauma. And yet here they stood, together. Because sometimes the monster who saves you and the truth that destroys you are one and the same. Sometimes the storm doesn't end. You just learn to breathe in the rain. If this story moved you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think Aisha should do next? Let me know below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.